Hello, fellow cinephiles, and welcome to another episode of Steve Reviews. I am your host, Steve Sullivan. I am a writer and critic for FilmMonthly.com. Well, since it's February, it is, of course, time for the Oscars. This year it'll be the beginning of March. I think the reason why is the Winter Olympics that are going on right now, and I don't think they want to try to test their mettle against every 4-year sporting event that usually gets huge ratings. Understandable. So, first Sunday in March 2018, we will have the 90th Academy Awards. In this episode, we are going to take a look at the nominees for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. What I love about the nominees this year, the level of unpredictability. Most years, you take a look at the candidates and you can pretty much figure out who the top person or top two people will be in each category. I don't think that's the case this year, and that's what I love about it. It's fun to take a look at everybody nominated and go, that person has a chance. But so does this one. And actually, I think they do as well, which is what's going to make it even more fun to watch. A lot of people have kind of dropped off on watching the Academy Awards because it's overly long, maybe because it's boring, sometimes the hosts, or some people don't like the fact that at times, and I have a feeling that it may be this year as well, it can get overly political. I, of course, am not going to get into the political aspect of it. We are just going to talk about the very well-deserving individuals who have gotten their nominations for this year. Now, we're going to start with Best Picture. Best Actor. Best Picture's always on my mind. Best Actor this year. You have three very established individuals who are nominated this year. I mean, you've heard these names, you've seen them before, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise. Like, for instance, Denzel Washington is nominated once again. It's for his movie, Roman J. Israel, Esquire. I don't know how widely viewed that movie was. I honestly myself have not seen it, but Denzel has gotten to the point in Hollywood where his quality level is pretty steady. I mean, he's had a couple of duds because how many actors haven't had a couple of duds? I'm looking at you, Al Pacino and Jack and Jill, but I digress. So yeah, it's one of those things now where you see that Denzel's in a movie, and it tends to be the case where you pretty much expect him to be great. It's kind of the same instance with Meryl Streep. It's almost like Meryl Streep is in any movie, and you almost don't have to watch it, and you just automatically figure she'll be nominated for an award. Which happened this year, but I don't want to go into further detail with that either. Also this year, we have another very familiar face in Gary Oldman. Even though it's ironic that I say familiar face, you can barely tell it is Gary Oldman. He is in The Darkest Hour, and he plays Winston Churchill. The makeup effects that they do on him pretty much makes him almost completely unrecognizable. And it is a pretty great performance. I wouldn't go so far as to look at it and just say I was completely blown away and think he's going to wipe out everybody for the award. But when you have a British actor that's unrecognizable under makeup, talking about one of the most important historical figures in the history of the world, more than likely they will get a nomination. And that's, of course, the case here. And our third veteran actor nominated for Best Actor, well, I mean, I'm sure, most of the viewers have definitely heard this name before, and that, of course, is Daniel Day-Lewis. He is nominated for Phantom Thread, and he has claimed that this will be his final motion picture. He is retiring from that. I'm sure he will probably continue to do stage work, but as for movies themselves, he has claimed that this will be his last, that he is retiring. So it's another case where even if the performance was so-so, there could be that chance that Academy voters will look at it and go, well, we may never have a chance to give the man, his just due. Whether or not this movie is worth it or not, makes no difference. It's the fact that it's Daniel Day-Lewis. So, of course, he is nominated for Phantom Thread. Now we need to take a close look at the two newcomers. Two very welcome young faces in this category. The first is Timothée Chalamet, and I hope I got his name right, for Call Me By Your Name. This young man was pretty terrific. I was not familiar with his name or his work previously, but I was sincerely impressed by the range that he was able to portray and pull off. He was starring up against some high quality veteran actors. He was tet for tat with Armie Hammer. Now, I'm not saying that Armie Hammer is one of the premier actors in Hollywood. I don't believe that myself. But, a veteran who has been in high profile roles in the past, and Mr. Chalamet not only handled himself quite well, but, overachieved by far. So, a welcome addition to the category. And of course, probably the biggest addition, the most welcome addition in my opinion, is Daniel Kaluuya. I hope I'm not butchering that. I think I did the last episode as well. If I am so sorry if I did, for Get Out. Incredible work. I loved everything about his performance in Get Out. Of course, I may be a little biased due to the fact that I am quite the fan of the horror genre as it was. But I just, for someone who hadn't really had that much attention or acclaim to come out and like guns blazing and just tear it up on the screen like this is incredibly impressive. So that's a name that I think you should look out for, not just on Oscar night, but in the future. I think he is going to be incredible. Now, if I had to make my pick based on the five, I will tell you who I think should win and who I also think the Academy will choose. I think that, sorry about the butchering, Mr. Kaluuya for Get Out should win. But I don't think he will, and I think the reason is that even though, yes, they were progressive enough to put in a couple of new faces, it will be one of the stalwarts, one of the familiars, the individuals who are there on a regular basis with nominations. So I do believe that Daniel Day-Lewis will win once again for Phantom Thread. But now we move onward to the Best Supporting Actor category. Now, as much as I approved of having two new faces for actor, we do not get any in supporting actor, which is not, horrible, because the five people that were nominated were very well deserving of their nominations. Let's get that straight right off the bat. I think that all five of these gentlemen did terrific jobs. And we're going to start with Willem Dafoe, who is nominated for The Florida Project. Florida Project is an interesting case study. One of my friends had said that it was fantastic and he loved it. It was his movie of the year. Now, another friend of mine who happens to actually be in the business itself just ripped it to shreds, said it was awful, said it was, Now, neither one of them said anything about Dafoe's performance, but if you're familiar with Dafoe, he can be up and down. I mean, you look at movies like, Spider-Man and Antichrist. Well, if you can look at Antichrist, hoo boy. But he was pretty incredible in Antichrist, but it didn't get that much recognition because the subject matter is so difficult to deal with. Meanwhile, if you go back and look at Platoon, he's wonderful. He is absolutely incredible. And not only that, but I would venture to say that another role that he was stunning in, got no nomination, even though he probably should have, was for his role as Bobby Peru in Wild at Heart. Shout out to my Lynch fans out there, David Lynch. Next up on the list is Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. Now, why this one fascinates me more than any of the other nominees is All the Money in the World was pretty much already done filming but with Kevin Spacey in the supporting role. After the various allegations of sexual misconduct brought against Mr. Spacey, they took him completely out of the film, recast him with veteran actor, had to basically reshoot the entire movie, and then Plummer gets nominated for the Oscar. When does that happen? Pretty much never. It's a remarkable instance that I don't know if you will see again. Hopefully you don't see it again based on the reason why Christopher Plummer ended up with the role. But to come in and just be a professional and an incredible actor and just take that role and make it your own, I mean, he deserves a nomination for being able to do that for sure. Speaking of veteran character actors who have been nominated in the past, Richard Jenkins is nominated for The Shape of Water. And it's such a strange, quirky, kind of heartfelt performance from him that, I think it deserves to be on the list. I don't necessarily always like it when, it's from a straightforward performance. And this is not really straightforward at all. It is very much different from basically all the rest of the nominees, and that's a good thing as well. I don't want 5 nominees in any category all being basically the same thing. So Jenkins' performance is pretty fun, and it's well deserving of the nomination. Now we have Woody Harrelson for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. If you go back to the late 80s and early 90s, and you watch the NBC sitcom Cheers, there is no way you would have ever looked at this goofy little character and thought he's going to turn into a terrific actor and be nominated for multiple Academy Awards. And yet here we are. And he is incredibly dynamic in this role. And at times you feel anger toward him, but you also feel empathy and sympathy for him as well, and he pulls off both incredibly well. It's a great performance all the way around, and I'm glad to see that he got the nomination. And speaking of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, our 5th and final nominee for Best Supporting Actor comes from that same film, and that of course is Sam Rockwell. And let me tell you, Sam Rockwell, if you're not familiar, go and find his work. Look that name on IMDb and do the research and watch as many as you can, because Rockwell is phenomenal. For instance, one role that I think he should have gotten a nomination for, but was such a small under-the-radar film at the time that I don't know if it got nominated for much of anything. And that's a great little sci-fi movie from just a few years ago called Moon. Very much look into Moon. Rockwell is a knockout, as well as a knockout in this film as well. He's another character where you look at him and you go, this guy is awful. He's a despicable person. You don't even want to call him a human being because you don't want to be in that same category with him because of how just awful he truly is. And then when you start to get toward the end of the movie, it kind of wanes a little bit and you actually feel something else. And the fact that you're right along with him on that road, and it never leaves you. You never leave him. You're focused on him, but you slowly start to almost not entirely go over to his side because of some of his actions and his words you would not want to ever agree with. But toward the end, you actually start to feel a little compassion for him, and based on that, I think it's well deserving. Absolutely, he should get the nomination for that. And as a matter of fact, my choice for the Best Picture Oscar, or I keep saying Best Picture, I'm telling you, I love that category, but I need to focus on this. For Best Supporting Actor for the 2018 Oscars, I would give it to Sam Rockwell. His performance was layered, and he's just a wonderful actor, and it's an accolade that I think that he finally deserves. So I think that the Best Supporting Actor 2018 belongs to Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Who do I think will get the award? I'm going to say Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. And the reason why I say that is I think the Academy and Hollywood as a whole wants to wipe all these scandals. Just they want to wash their hands of it, wipe them away, and try to get out as clean as possible. So I think giving the award to Plummer, who took over for Spacey and everything that surrounded him, would be a way for the Academy to go, hey, we made mistakes. There are people that aren't exactly clean in this business, and we want to give it to a veteran actor who, deserves it. So as much as I would like to see Sam Rockwell win, I do believe that the Academy will give it to Christopher Plummer. So there you have it, folks. That is my personal take on the Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor categories for the 2018 Academy Awards ceremony. I want to thank you for joining me once again in episode number 3. I also, before I go, want to give a couple of shout outs. One in particular, if you have a youngster and you're a horror movie fan, but there are some that you can't exactly show them, one way to learn the best possibilities without having to search all over the internet is there is this terrific podcast called Cadavercast. Cadavercast is hosted by 6-year-old Alistair Burnham and his dad Jeff, and they do a wonderful job of taking a look at kid-friendly horror movies to get your kids one step into the doorway toward what will, I'm sure, be a lifelong obsession with the horror genre. So, whatever app you have for podcasts, look up Cadavercast, and you know what? And even if you don't have kids, if you're a kid at heart and you just happen to love horror movies of a wide range, find Cadavercast, listen to this show. I guarantee you'll love it. And also, head on over to filmmonthly.com. You can look up some of the previous articles and reviews that I have personally written, and you can also take a look at so many other terrific writers and reviewers over there. There's lots of great stuff to go through. So head on over to filmmonthly.com, take a look around, and until we meet again, have a beautiful day and good journey.